And our first order of business is the recognition of the National Merit Scholars.
So Dr. Walsh and I have the honor of recognizing our scholars. So I could ask Dr. Walsh to join me. And
commended and semi-finalist students for being here tonight to celebrate our Merit Scholars. The National Merit Scholarship Program is a United States academic scholarship competition for recognition and the opportunity to receive scholarships administered by the National Merit Scholarship Corporation. Approximately 1.5 million students entered into the 2020 National Merit Scholarship Program through the participation in the 2018 PSATs. Of this, approximately 50,000 students are identified nationally as attaining the highest merit PSAT index score, of which nationally only 34,000 reach the commended students level, which is one reason why we're gathering here tonight to celebrate. And nationally, only 16,000 from the 1.5 million move on to the semifinalist level, which is the second reason we are gathering to celebrate tonight. Here at Algonquian, we had 19 students placed at this very prestigious national level. In addition to this amazing accomplishment by our 19 students, we had one student identified in the top tier, reaching the semi-finalist title. All semi-finalists are moved on in the competition to compete for a finalist status. This is a national recognition promoting and supporting the outstanding potential for academic successes of our students and the amazing opportunities they bring to their colleges and careers of choice. Thank you to our Algonquian family, our faculty, our community members for supporting our students as they continue to excel at such a significant level. At this time, on behalf of our Algonquian community, I am excited to have Mr. McGowan introduce our commended students to come up to the front to be recognized, receive their award, as well as to announce our semi-finalist students to also receive their award and be recognized for their educational excellence.
So first, congratulations. And Arthur Andrews.
I'm popping in.
Victoria Haskins. Catherine Hayden. Nicole Howard. Ashna Jane.
congratulations.
David Keith. Colin Kerrigan. Catherine McCarthy. Charles McClernand. Sophia Mihalik. Gabriela Paz Soldan. Rachita Raja Gata. Elizabeth Shaw. Lauren Silva. Samuel Slovan. Sequoia Truong. Rudy Udschneider. Zane Walters. semifinalist Joseph Zhang. Congratulations.
Oh, there's another award. There's another award, so don't move. You guys should stay there for a minute. Sorry. No, it's okay. No, it's good to check.
So, two more awards to announce this evening. So, on behalf of the National School Development Council, the NSDC, which is a network of regional school study councils that supports excellence, equity, and continuous educational improvement, the NSDC Award is presented to high school seniors who have consistently pursued a high level of academic effort and who have served as positive role models for the student body. Recipients of the award exemplify admirable character and accomplishments. So this evening we have two awards to give out. And I did speak with the recipients, guidance counselors, and also Dr. Walsh. So they gave me a long list of accomplishments. So the first award goes to William Burley. So come on up, William. We get to brag about you. And your parents get to be very proud of all your accomplishments. So William is the captain of the varsity volleyball. He's a member of DECA. He's the co-creator of the investment club, so I might be reaching out to you. Nice. He's the student council treasurer. He's the editor of Businesses with Stories section and a full-time contributor. He's on the steering committee. He received the RIT's Innovation and Creativity Award. He's a Special Olympics coach. Hobby Leadership Seminar he participated in. He participated in the Naval Academy Seminar last summer. He's also interested in attending the Naval Academy next fall. And if he does not get accepted, he plans on being in the Navy ROTC, whichever college he attends. And I think the greatest compliment was given by your guidance counselor, and it is, Will is such a great kid. Congratulations.
But actually, it's his birthday.
And and our second award recipient is, I'm sure you wanted to be here on your birthday. Is Liza Armstrong. So again, I get to brag about Liza, which Dr. Walsh and your guidance counselor gave me some great information to share with the community. So Liza is the online editor of the Harbinger. She competed on the varsity golf team. She's a store manager. She's actually helping the high school bring this store into the 21st century. She's on the National Honor Society, the National Business Honor Society, member of the Quill and Scroll. She's on the International Honor Society for High School Journalists. She's a member of DECA. She's a member of the National English Honor Society, Best Buddies, and she's the Vice President of Social Action for Westborough's chapter of the North American Federation of Temple Youth. And again, your guidance counselor gave you the greatest compliment, and that is, Liza's an awesome kid. That's from Mrs. Hodgkin, so congratulations. So we'll take a few minutes for photos and pictures. So the National Merit Scholars, we can head over in the corner, we'll take a group photo, and the parents are more than welcome to take photos and celebrate the moment. So.
Our next action is action on minutes. To approve the action of the open meeting of September 18th, 2019. Paul?
So I have a motion and a comment, if I could. I move that we approve the minutes of the open meeting of September 18th, 2019.
I will second for discussion.
And then my comment, if I could, on the athletic update section of the minutes. As I recall, we had some fairly significant conversation about that concussion testing. None of it's mentioned in the minutes. And I further think another member suggested in that meeting that a further discussion about making the testing mandatory for student athletes be on this month's agenda, and it seems to be missing. So I just thought maybe we ought to at least adjust the minutes to talk about the conversation, and maybe, since it wasn't in this month's agenda, and it has to be posted, that we post it for next month's agenda, if we could.
So, just because I've been around forever, the reason back when we were discussing the how to roll out the concussion testing, it was actually our attorney who told us that we shouldn't make it mandatory, because if we make it mandatory, then we assume more ownership of, like if things happen, and that was just something they weren't comfortable with. So that was, 5-6 years ago. I'm not saying that that's the end all and be all, but that's why, I mean, we did discuss it, and we did want to do it.
No,
and
I
we were way
recall.
wrong.
Now they say that, I recall, but I'd still say attorneys are always conservative.
Right.
And I think it's a conversation still worth having.
Right.
Agreed.
Okay.
Yes. Okay.
In terms of the minutes, I think there was, in the agenda for items for next month, there was an ask about that, and I had asked about the UIOD technology, and it's not reflected here.
So we will add that to the November agenda.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? So do we have to revote that?
I personally think it could be voted. I mean, you just mention of the fact that that discussion took place. It doesn't have to obviously be verbatim. It's just the fact that it took place.
Right, I would agree with that, yeah. So we move if I could, I motion that we approve what will be amended minutes to reflect that conversation on concussion testing.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. The next action is the executive session minutes of September 18, 2019, to vote to accept and retain. Paul?
So I move that we vote to accept and retain the executive session minutes of September 18th, 2019.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed? Okay. Education policy, there is none at this time. New business, we're going to have a presentation from the Algonquin Parent Teacher Organization.
Good evening. I'm Jacqueline Reed Barnes from the APTO, and I am the chair this year, and it's a pleasure and honor and a thrill to be here tonight. Thank you for the time and the opportunity to talk to you about the APTO. It is my senior year, so I am graduating, and I am happy to say that we have an amazing dream team, following in the footsteps of all the legacy members that we have had. The admin coordinator is here tonight, Carrie Post. If you might raise your, Carrie, thank you. Our amazing treasurer, Cumu Savarjan, who you will be hearing from in a little bit. And our communications coordinator, who had another conflict, unfortunately, but Cheryl Noronha just joined us and is taking us leaps and bounds in the social media world, amazing marketing background, so we're thrilled to have Cheryl join us. And we are in need of some transitioning positions, and they are listed here: treasurer in training, a separate auditor, scholarship committee, looking at JPP liaison, and we've been talking about class liaisons, and of course, general volunteers. And what we're going to talk about today very briefly, because I know we've got a very heavy agenda, a little bit about what we do, and the drive for dollars that we have going on because of what we need to do what we do, what's next, and what's the word. So hopefully I'm still on the internet. And I am. So what do we do as the APTO? What we do is for various groups, one of which, of course, is just the general school community. And this is just a, sorry. For the general school community, we help sponsor school speakers, several of whom you may have heard of. The Kevin Wanzer, who was the Day of Change last year, and Dr. Ruth Polte, and prior to that, Kevin Brooks. They all have spoken to students and parents in various capacities, and we're happy to have had a little bit to do with that, we hope. For faculty and staff, our role is to show appreciation and hospitality. One of the things we're really hoping to do is to start a teacher grant program and Wishlist program. We feel that's very important to support the teachers, especially with the grants that can't be received any other way. And finally, a new program that we're starting to get volunteers in during the school day to free up the faculty from non-academic specific tasks. And hopefully that will become an even greater program. And in fact, our, I think QMU and Carrie have both had a chance to participate in that program. And I don't know if you have any comments. I know you were telling me that it was very...
It was a very positive experience. I just felt appreciated by the staff that came in or walked by me. I was monitoring in the hall, and I had an opportunity to see one of my 3 boys, and I also saw some of their friends. It was just great to be in the school community, kind of get a sense for what my kids are experiencing every day, and also hopefully helping with what's needed here. So it was a very positive experience for me.
And it's, we've been telling parents it's time to come back to school. Bring them back in. It's a very different experience than when you were in a grade school. So find out what the kids are doing. Don't always hear that nowadays. For the students, we have a scholarship application process, and since 2014, the APTO has awarded $14,500 in scholarships to 29 graduating seniors. We have the junior post-prom party extravaganza to keep our kids safe. It's been a 26-year program run through the community contacts. A lady who's just amazing, Sue Disser, actually runs it after graduating, has no kids in the high school, but she still keeps it going. And it's also very important for the community to be involved and to help us support that. We have the college fair that we help guidance with, providing volunteers, and of course our annual ice cream social, which everybody seems to love. I thought, do we really want to keep doing this? And I was like, no, we can't get rid of that. It's a lot of fun last day of the senior class. And I'm just going to just show you a couple of other things. Our meetings are listed on here for interest. And this is our webpage. And in case anyone's interested on when we meet, and it's planned out for the year. Also, going to just point out that we do have a calendar of events here mapped into the school calendar, and we also have sort of a communication calendar to keep us on track of when our events are, when we need to do the communication. And we have a year at a glance, which was new this year, which is very helpful for parents. Sort of every month, what are the topics that are happening, and within each of the categories. And it may not, we don't have dates on there because they change, but it's sort of a planning tool for parents to say, oh, when is that SAT roughly, or what sports are during what month? And that is on our web chat. And I am going to ask Kumil, our treasurer, to come and show you the money. Why we are interested in doing a drive right now.
Hello all, good evening. I'm happy to be here, so excited for this year. I'm not only here for as a treasurer, but in training for next year with co-chair. I'm going to be co-chairing with Kerry next year. So I just want to quickly take you through for the last school year, that is 2018-2019. So this is how it looks like. The total expenses came up to 8,100 about, and then in that 38% something, the percentage is not here about, it went to
You know what, we've got copies here of some of these numbers that might be easier to read.
So I'm going to just talk to you from my computer. So the speakers, the maroon thing, it's about 3,100. It went to speakers, to brought two Kevins and one Dr. Cody. And 25% went to hospitality. That is like teacher appreciation week, and luncheon, and also for the students, ice cream social. And another 25% went to scholarship. We awarded 4 seniors last year, not 5. And also some 6% went to admin, and another 6% went to JPP donation. Every year we commit ourselves to give $500. So this is a quick look about the last school year. If I can, Jackie, just can you please? To the next one. Can I just escape? Thank you very much.
That looks good.
So the next thing, this is the bar graph. I cannot comfortably talk about from 2017 henceforth. Like from there, I can, because I just stepped in last year. 2018 school year, if you can just see, the gray area is the membership. So you can see how it's about 3,000, and I was happy to see like about 1,500 jump from 17 to 2018. So there were more incoming. However, this year we are starting 701. So a goal actually for the next slide, next. I still want to, sorry, excuse me.
You can put, yeah, that way.
From here, from this slide, no, the previous one.
Oh,
So here I want to really quickly tell.
this one?
No, the bar chart. The gray one here. Thank you. So if you would see that parents were happy to donate for the hospitality 1,300 2017, and switched to just the membership in 2018 more, and very less for just the so different. This is what the talking point. We have to just creatively think and outside the box to get more money. So I will go quickly to the next slide. This is the real picture today. We are hopeful, we are excited, but this is the reality. and we want 10,000. Ideally, we would like to start the year about 1,500, and we started this year 3,200, and excluding the 701. However, if you would just see the flyer, we started with 369, and we grew up to $701 now. So this has drastically decreased parent involvement, monetary, and also the volunteering things. So we are trying our best to fundraise through the restaurants, but it's we had already had one, didn't do very well. So this is the area we are talking of, thinking outside the box. Another?
You did a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kim. And I want to say that Kim and I have really worked together on trying to get different analyses that we haven't necessarily done over the years. We're really looking at how much money we're budgeting, percentage of speakers and scholarship. They're high. That's where most of our money goes right now. And we also, our money came from members historically. And we have been switching to a sponsorship. Everybody's a member of the APTO. And we're also, as Kimi mentioned, we're trying to get creative fundraising. So what is next, given where we are today? Immediately next is our 501c3 report, and we are a 501c3 organization. That's very important for us as part of the functions that and activities that we perform, especially the JPP, the junior post-prom party. One of the things that I personally would like to see happen over the next year or so is to really look at that party now, in today's world. What should we be doing? Are the kids liking all the activities? Have we taken a real hard look at where the money's going? And I know it's been amazing, and the kids seem to really like it. But given the state of our affairs, you have the money that we're talking about doesn't include the JPP program. That's a whole separate drive. That's a whole separate payment process. The businesses get involved. Businesses donate. It's a wonderful community thing. So we want to look at that and see how can we, financially and otherwise, are we doing what we want to do for that? Scholarship inclusion is a big thing. We've been moving away from membership. Used to be scholarships only go to members. We're looking to see what does that mean now that we're trying to broaden the concept of who is in the APTO. So that's one of the big things we're looking at. Creative fundraising, besides the moolah and Chipotle. In fact, we have a Chipotle night coming up, and we've got flyers, FYI, just in case families want to go out for a night. I will make sure you guys get one. So we have to look at creative fundraising. Are there big activities that we could get involved with? We never fundraised before because that just wasn't the way parents wanted to contribute. They didn't have the time. But we may have to look at that again, and we may have to get very creative. And finally, we want to involve the community more. Those are we need help at the school, the volunteering program that we started actually in school. We want to help teachers with the Wishlist and grants, and also hope that they in turn might come back to us and share their programs with us. We want students to involve themselves in the programs that we have, such as the moolah and the Chipotle and the fun nights, through the Harbinger and the radio. We have a great alumni program, from what I'm sure we must have a ton of alums out there in the community. And can we use them more? Can we communicate with them more? And finally, with the program, the in-school volunteering, the senior center volunteers. We've got tons of folks out there that have had wonderful experiences, have so much to give, really want to, and maybe they can help out with some of the programs that we can't get parents to involve themselves because they're so tied up in the lives of their kids and themselves. So those are kind of the things that we want to talk about Or work on going forward. And finally, a little word, what's the word? Communication. We're on email. We participate in the one call. Sarah's done an amazing job keeping us posted every week, and we're part of that. But there's only so much we can put in one email. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. We have a new Instagram set up. And we have the web, which I'm going to just talk about for 1 second. And you can notice what kind of participation we're starting to get on the social media. Bear with me. Sorry about that. Just trying to get back to that page. Bear with me here, sorry. We have, while I'm trying to get back to it, we have a page called, what's the word? And whenever we have a one call, we link to that page and we have everything. Let's get back to Algonquian Enrollment. There we go. All right. So it's some of you may remember that we used to have a newsletter, went out every month. Well, we've brought that in because there's so much information on the one call, and made this more the details. So if you'll see we've got headline news. These are the two big things for us: the drive, which is Kumi said this is going to be updated every time we get money. It's going to get updated. The faculty urges parents to go back to school, and these are the things that really matter at our hot ticket items. And then we have our other news. Next week we have a meeting, Chipotle on the 28th. So we do the details of our stuff on this page, and it's linked to all the other connections that we need on the web, community connections. So it's been a pleasure and a privilege. Thank you very much for letting us update you. I don't know if anyone has any questions. Yes?
So, the dollars for the drive, I actually got that email the other day. Does the $701 reflect what you guys have gotten so far from that, or have you gotten any more?
I'm sorry, I have a
Is it
list of how come on the way.
Question.
Oh, sure, go ahead.
So that is the $701 only from the parents.
Okay.
It's a membership. Like I said in the beginning, it's in our part, like APTO, we have right now 4,000.
Okay.
Including this 700.
So have people been donating to the dollars for the drive for you guys?
This exclusive, this 700 is from the parents.
From that, okay.
Yeah, so dues like 30, 50, we have 30, 50, 100.
Okay.
And I believe since the drive started, it's about
Okay.
400 that has come in. Is that
Correct. In the
So
flyer, you will see 369, and yes.
Yeah,
I mean, you guys do
300
such
from the beginning of the year.
wonderful work. I hope it works. I remember when my son first started here, it was you wrote a check for 1 year, 2 years, 3 or 4. That was how the memberships went. And I know you guys went away from that. Would you consider going back to that to raise money if you don't get the money from Dollars for a Drive?
I mean, so my reasoning for doing that is we had a membership. I wasn't really sure what we were offering as a part of that membership other than the scholarships. And I was a little concerned that people would shy away from being a member of the APTO if that felt like it was a commitment. When
Right.
really, what we really needed was, a check from
Right.
them. But seeing how it's going, maybe membership really was the way to go, and maybe somehow people connected with that better. So yes, we will consider any option if this isn't working
I just think we all came with our checkbooks.
That's true. I mean, we did get the sponsorship concept, we got a lot of positive feedback about.
Right.
It's interesting. And you see we had a little bit more money. So we didn't actually say no more sponsors. We just said everybody is part of the APTO.
Well,
And we expanded and we were hoping that that made people feel more like, okay, I want to sponsor what's happening, what they're doing.
Well, I wish you guys luck because it is a great organization.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Thank you.
Thanks, thank you very
No,
much.
thank you very much.
So our next presentation is going to be the Algonquin Boosters.
So we have the president of Boosters, Tom Spataro, here to give an update. We did not make you a name tag. Okay.
Ready? All right. So the Booster Club, another good year. We're off to a good start this year. First, I guess I always want to say thank you to all the team reps. We have about 32 teams, and each with a rep or a coach that is always trying to fundraise, give the kids a better experience. There's also the executive board, which we're up to 9 people. So we figure the more people that we have in the executive board, the more we can do. You know, you get in those volunteer situations where you get on the board and everybody has all these ideas, but you can't get it done because we're volunteers. So we brought on some pretty good people and done some good things. Also, thank you to Mike Masserino. He's been doing a great job, and you know, like everybody else, is really putting in a really good effort. So one of the big things that we did this year, we actually started over the summer. It took a good amount of our time, but it's something that we thought would really help us in everything that we did, was build a new website. So we had the free website before and it worked fine, but there's a lot of things that we did, and a lot of things that took a lot of time from the volunteers. And you know, in running even basketball, the basketball organization for Northborough for a number of years, if you can't make it easy for volunteers, they're not going to be able to do as much as they can do. So the new website makes it a lot easier for us to administer the Boosters organization. It centralizes a lot of functions, like for instance, check requests. We get the check requests in the mail. We get it at the athletic department. I mean, we want it in one spot. So now all the team reps have to go in. They have to log into our Booster rep site, and there's a check request and things like that that they kind of log in from there, attach their receipts. We have one place for everything that we do. It's a good audit trail. So I think that's going to work out really good. Still working out some bugs, so if you hear anything, we still have those little quirky things, but when we get things going, it really works well. We did, one of our first events was a football Boosters event. It was a tailgate type thing, which was a lot of fun. And we put that on the site so everybody could go on the site. They'd register for the event. They could put their credit cards in. They could put PayPal in. They could say they're sending us a check. And then the Booster rep has everything on a spreadsheet that we could just click and send them. So instead of, you can imagine in the old days when we're like collecting checks and writing things down and everything else, and how much work that becomes, especially an organization as big as football. I think it's really going to start making their life a lot easier. And a lot of the things, I mean, I'll tell you, when I first came on about 4 years ago for the treasurer, we had a lot of cash. We do not accept cash anymore. I don't think it's a good thing to do to walk around with a lot of cash, so everything is credit cards, PayPal, things like that. It's easier to move in between our bank accounts, and it's a lot more secure. So, so other than that, one of the things we want to do is communication. Last year, we had talked about a little bit more control on events and things like that. One of the things that we have all our team reps is we want to know what their events are ahead of time, just to make sure we're not doing certain things that are, might have caused problems in the past or what have you. We take those events and we put them on our website under there's a team rep page, and everything will be on there, so they can actually put links and other things. So football will have a link, so everybody can go there, click on football's link, and it'll go right to whatever event they have. And you guys can go there if you want to take a look at what we're doing. Other links like the sports schedule, the spirit shop, things like that. Again, everything is, if I get a question, then I know I got to put it on the website, right? Because I want everything to be there to make it easy on everybody. Not that I mind people talking to me, but what else do we have there? Another thing that we worked on last year was the sponsorship policy. So what we did was we had a process that we outlined with the board or the policy, Kathy, Paul, Sarah, a few others, Greg. And one of the things was just to make sure we have some control over sponsorships. So what we did was we outlined a number of, banks and restaurants and things like that, and we got kind of a pre-approval list. And then from there, we knew that we could go out and see if they wanted to support the Boosters organization. So last year, that made it a lot easier. And last year, we more than doubled our sponsorships. So even with the golf event where we'd make $6,000 to $8,000, depending on rain or what have you, we made over $13,000. And I think we can do even a lot better. It also allowed us to kind of outline what we can do, maybe putting signs on some of the scoreboards that we just updated. We already have 3 larger donations that are coming. So I can't say it until they sign on the dotted line, but really excited that the businesses, want to help support our organization here. So the other thing with the website, it also gives them, we're going to have, for some reason we put it at the bottom. We just moved it to the top, so all the icons and logos, we have like a scrolling for all the sponsorships. So businesses that want to support us, when people go on, they can see that their business, and then under the sponsorship page, we put their hyperlink, so their web page, if you go there, you can see who sponsors us, click on the web link, and it go right to their page. So a lot of things like that, just to try to drum up more and more interest, and to show people, who supports, our high school. We have additional fundraising efforts that we want to do this year, including the annual golf event, which is in June. Those are coming. I won't mention them just yet, but you guys will hear about them before we start. A couple of them were already taken, so I got to see if anybody's doing things that we want to do. So other than that, there's a lot of other things. I mean, the financials were in the same state that we were last year. We're doing good. Our average balances are over $200,000. So we're bringing in typically around $200,000 to $250,000 a year, and that's about what we spend too. So when you think about what is that $250,000, it's banquets. Like literally could be up to $75,000. It's a lot of other things like that that will is really just for the kids' experience at the end of the season. It's great to have them go up there with their teams and have awards and everything else. So because those are the things I think the kids remember sometimes even more than everything else. So the last thing, kind of a big one, when I first got president, I think I got asked every day, so what's going on with the turf field? I'm sitting here going, what turf field? So I had to do some research and found out that Gale Associates had done a proposal, an assessment a number of years ago, and so we went to the superintendent, Sarah, Mike Monserino, everybody was there. We brought Gale Associates back just to find out what else we need to do. I mean, if you think about it, There was some people that, I told them we were looking at this project, and they said, we just redid the field. I said, no, that was 15 years ago. That was a long time ago. So what seemed to be yesterday is no longer. And if you go to the field, you look at the lights, you look at other things, it's about time that we really start looking at this. So anyways, we did that, and they're going to come back hopefully in another week or so with an assessment, and then kind of next steps after that is figuring out how we get there, And for me, hopefully we'd like to get there sooner than later. It's interesting, you look at the sponsorship policy and the structure that we have there, reaching out to businesses, letting them know who we are, what we can do for them. That's kind of the next stage would be if we need those bigger sponsors. We hope they're out there that they can see there's value in, supporting our high school, our turf fields, and so on. So I'll stop there. Do you guys have any questions?
Have you ever thought about adopting APTO? They're chasing $8,000 and you're picking up $250,000 a year. It's like nuts, isn't it? I mean, that seems, they could, I'm sorry, I'm being, I guess I'm being facetious, but yeah. Pretty odd though, huh? To have those back-to-back conversations from one organization that supports the students and another, and have that sort of discrepancy in the funding. I think that, I just find that interesting. Worth commenting, I guess.
I mean, a lot of it's, so you think of the numbers though. When you add the team reps, the parents of the players, the executive board, the people that are coming back, that's like our bigger donors here, their kids are either playing at the high school, or did play at the high school, or they played at the high school, and they had so we're trying to tap into all those folks and get them excited, and I think that's, and it wasn't always like this.
Oh, to your credit. I'm not saying it's not to your credit. It's like, I mean, their membership is the universe of every student that's ever gone here, and yet, they're chasing it hard and not catching it. It's interesting.
Because it's not music, it's not, there's no student involvement. It's just.
I get it. Anyway, enough. I didn't mean to go down that path, but.
When are the booster meetings?
So on the website, we actually will have a list of all the meetings. I know Paul has come to a few of the meetings. Greg has come to a couple of the meetings as well. They are typically once a month, a team rep meeting every other month, and then the executive board every other month as well. So once a month, we're always having a meeting. And then in addition to that, obviously during the month, we're trading emails and so on. But if you want a list of them, or if you want to attend, you can see them on our website, arhsboosters.com.
And then I have a second question. I know in the past, the boosters at the meetings, sometimes the athletic director would be in attendance, and the athletic director would put in requests for what they need. One time in years past was an ice machine. So are those type of requests still being made, and are the boosters helping to support those things?
Yeah. So Mike Mascherino attends every meeting, and what we do is, depending on, so if the team is going to spend money, so whether it's equipment or anything that they need that's fallen apart, it's not part of the budget, they raise money for that equipment, they'll go to Mike and get it approved and so on, because it's got to be a certain type, right? You just can't bring anything into the school. So he basically has to approve anything there. Anything that the general boosters does, what we do is we kind of go back and forth to say, what does the school need, right? And so last year I'm big into the weight room, right? And I said, Mike, we got to bring everything into the weight room. And he says, no, the scoreboards are falling apart. So what we did was and this was one of the things that kind of spurred me to kind of get more money, because I didn't have enough. So we updated the scoreboards. They cost about $6,600 to update both of them. And then the weight room, we currently put in about $1,200, and we're going to put in at least about $2,000. But interesting with the weight room, when you went in there, it was for people lifting heavy weights, your football team, your wrestling team. You had the squat racks, you had everything like that. And for a lot of us that are into CrossFit now, core, core training and things like that, and all our athletes, especially for the sports that are, more about agility and things like that, you need bands, you need smash balls, you need all that type of stuff, ladders and so on. So we actually, that's what we started to buy, sleds and things like that. So it's not just for, certain athletes, it's for all the athletes can actually go in there.
Thank you.
Yep.
So, and most of the expenditures are like capital items as opposed to like operational things that would have to be paid year after year after year, right? So you're not picking up salaries, as much as you're buying stuff.
Yeah, definitely no salaries,
Okay.
but no, it's a great question because it can cost us between $7,000 and $11,000. Actually, it does cost us $7,000 to $11,000 a year just for administration. So for all the filings for our tax audit, one thing after another, it comes up to about $7,000 to $11,000. Yeah.
Thanks.
Anyone else? Thank you very much. That's
Thank
great.
you.
Thanks. Okay, our next is the school improvement plan update.
Yes, thank you. Thank you to Greg for emailing out a copy of it. So just to refresh our memories and for some of our newer school committee members, when we put together this 2-year plan, what we did is we worked with the school-based leadership team, the school council, and the faculty, and we revisited our previous plan, went step by step, and our goal was to simplify and align our work so that we can make larger impact on fewer but more important goals. I presented a step-by-step process on how we did this, and I ended the presentation with showing how faculty each made their own individual comment, kind of like a post-it note on where they were launching into the SIP plan and how they were applying it in their classrooms. So tonight is just a brief update on that process. So if we head to our first goal, which focuses on a learning environment, we had 3 goals in total. So our first goal has 4 action steps, and I'm just going to give a brief update on where we are for each action step. So for the first action step, we focus on writing across the curriculum, WAC, and our Algonquin Writing Center. So the WAC team has continued their work. They do meet regularly to work on seamlessly integrating some of their content-specific work across departments. They have done a few school-based leadership team presentations. They've done full faculty presentations. In fact, they're doing one this coming Monday to increase stakeholders and get them involved in the work. In addition to that, there's the Algonquin Writing Center, which you've heard me speak about for these last few years. That's continued to expand. It has services both during the day and after school. Many of you have seen the location. It's fantastic. And they do more than just work on English and school writing assignments. As you are aware, they did additional workshops like the college essay writing work. So that action step has continued to expand. But the work continues, right? We're always looking to train new writers and leaders of the program. We did just host another school visit, I believe today. We've had 2 this year alone, where we have local schools coming to look at the work that Mr. Zarnecki, Ms. Stein, and the students are doing for the Algonquin Writing Center. For action step number 2, our career days continue to expand, so much so now that we're on a 2-year rotation between departments. Because we had so many volunteers, we weren't able to host them across all of the different departments. We now focus on specific departments so that students can get an intense view of what it's like to be in that field from that department-specific area. Our internship opportunities continue to expand. You'll hear me speak a little bit to it through our student support program in the principal's report. But again, this still has ongoing work. We still want to push those opportunities. Step 3 was focusing on a bell schedule. As many of you are aware, we piloted 2 bell schedules last year, and the students and faculty voted for pilot schedule 2 with the 2-step blocks. However, there needs to be more clarity on what is actually a step block and making sure that we're revisiting meeting the needs of students. So that's the work that we're doing now. And a 3rd bell committee has actually been formed this year and hoping to include more stakeholders and encompass more perspectives in order to meet the needs, our original needs for looking into that work. And then the last action step was just the rollout of Canvas and bring your own device. So a brief update on that. 100% of our faculty are on Canvas. It is our only grading platform, and all of their web-based work is linked to Canvas and through Canvas. In addition to this work, all over the last 2 years, teachers and their goals have been focusing on leveraging a new tool in Canvas. So once they mastered the grading opportunity, looking at how to leverage rubrics, how to leverage videos, how to do interactive work with students. And so that was a part of their own teaching and lifelong learning. That work always is continuing to expand. In addition to that, we've been very reflective on bring your own device. I know we're asking for an update on the Algonquian digital integration. So with that work, we've expanded our hardware, we've expanded our software opportunities to have more students access loaner devices and online tools like great math programs like Alex, the Big Ideas programs, just to continue that work. And that work, again, for learning environment is an ongoing opportunity for Algonquin. For our second SIP goal, it focuses on social emotional growth, and there are 4 action steps. The first one, we're revisiting social emotional trends and making sure that we're aligning our work to meet our student needs. You heard APTO speak a little bit about it. We had Dr. Potee in here, Kevin Wasner. We've done some programmatic updates and workshops. We're doing a vaping restorative therapeutic program based out of Shrewsbury Youth and Family Services this year to help meet student needs. Working on a public service announcement in collaboration with Ms. Duggan and school physician Dr. Medina, as well as doing additional training for staff, which I'll talk about in a moment. This action step is forever ongoing. We're very reflective on it, and we use a lot of different data sources to make sure that the things that we're bringing to school are impactful for our students and our families. For the action step 2, it's like where are we and how are we supporting our faculty during social emotional growth. So our November PD Day is coming up. We have Shrewsbury Youth and Family Services doing the youth mental health first aid training for all of our faculty, aides, and educators. It's a great program. It's very interactive. They get up, they work and learn how to engage students in conversations, making connections, while also addressing and being able to look for concern behaviors for mental health and get the right individuals involved. We're continuing our Spark focus that we worked on last year, continuing our Connections Committee work. And I've had parents report out to me that they receive more one-on-one phone calls and emails from our faculty, making that positive connection while also giving academic support. So that work is working. And the more connections you make for our students, the better you support some of that risk-taking back behavior to have positive choices instead. Action step 3 is looking at setting up and promoting healthy boundaries around routines and technology, including Canvas. We've developed 7 specific committees at the school this year to help streamline and focus our work so that we don't get too scattered and we make forward progress on this. Some of these committee works focus on absenteeism and chronic absenteeism avoidance, how to offer additional social emotional helps. Our student assistance team continues this work. Mr. Callanan is always big for sending out that video on how to turn off some Canvas notifications, how to make it work for your family, how to let students really shut down some of the notifications at certain times of day so that they can get a good night's sleep and come back refreshed the next day. We have looked into cell phone policies. Depending on the school, you can come up with a large sweeping cell phone mandate. But what we're trying to look at more is establishing those boundaries where students feel more comfortable in when and how to use their cell phone. So teachers have been very creative with this work. Cell phone parking lots, using them at critical times during the lesson. Because if you look at some of the research is in the workplace, cell phones are a tool. So we don't want to just create this no cell phones, no use kind of policy. We want to find a way to integrate it in the work that we're doing so students have a healthy boundary with it. Ongoing, expanding some of our digital literacy skills, Checkology continues to grow, and then how to manage and help our students manage the different 8 to 9 different social media platforms that they're on, because it's ever changing for us as well for them. Again, that work continues. And then the last action step for our second step goal is just making sure that we're integrating safety resources. So we took an action step this year, which has been an invaluable resource, in that we, as administrators and the guidance team and their support and Mr. Callan's support, created our own Canvas page. And on that Canvas page, we have a safety and health wellness tab. And in there goes all of our ALICE trainings, our fire drill protocols, our AB crisis interaction teams, crisis team information, mental health supports, phone trees, our SRO supports. We did all of this work right at the beginning of the year. it was immediately rolled out in a flipped classroom. And then if we ever bring on a new teacher, new faculty member, sub, it's there. It's immediately accessed. So you don't have that scary breakdown in communication if you needed to make a quick response to help a student out. So that was all done proactively. We also did something very different this year with our 8th grade parent night, 9th grade parent night orientation. We had our school psychologist, Dr. Lipton, do a presentation on teen mental health and wellness and just establishing those boundaries and helping them through that transition phase. That's up on our website as an additional resource. So yes, action steps 4 continues the work, but we've made some really great traction, measurable traction. And then our third and final goal, focuses most on professional development. It is 3 action steps. The first one focusing on instructional rounds. Last year was our first formal year of instructional rounds rollout at Algonquian. We had an inquiry-based question on student advocacy. It was a year-long process. It's a long-term development process for us as leaders in the building. And what we did throughout that year is we collected multiple data sources, and through some affinity work, we've actually updated our inquiry-based question to be more on how do we get our students to be effective communicators, both orally and in writing, to different audiences. That's going to be a lifelong skill that's going to really pay back benefits in their future career work. So that's our instructional focus this year that seamlessly integrates with our inquiry-based work under rounds. So that work is continuing. I think we host our first rounds visit on Wednesday next week. So we've already got that work set in place. For the second action step, it talked about providing staff with professional development on differentiation and integrating some best practices for teaching students with various needs. We have continued and grown our work of co-teaching within our classes. So what does that mean? We will link up a science teacher with one of our ESL educators so that you're getting that one-to-one co-teaching where you're updating lesson plans and putting, best practices to meet students right there live time in the classroom. We also have some of our PLCs where we have an ESL teacher or we'll have a student support teacher join the professional learning community. So when they're doing curriculum updates, they get that updated perspective on how to improve those differentiation practices. And it's exciting. The work is actually really exciting because some of our recent data on our subgroups have shown gains through standardized testing that this work was effective. So we've made measurable gains. Again, this continues. This work is always ongoing. We're all lifelong learners, and we model it through the work that we do every day. And through the last action step number 3, I briefly spoke about it, we have continued a professional learning community in almost every single department in Algonquin. We really strive to push putting collaborative educators together to discuss curriculum, how to improve it, and how to better meet student needs. We've made them very intentional and specific. For example, when they were updating or changing some of the social studies standards, they were intentional professional learning communities. When we were looking at some of our MCAS data for biology, professional learning community. This will be the first year that we do the test online. Let's make sure those teachers have what they need to apply those tools. So that work continues, and we are excited on some of our preliminary data that we got back from that. And just in closing, this work doesn't happen in a silo. It really took some great collaboration from our school-based leadership team, our school council members, department chairs, librarians. Our IT team is extremely supportive, our support staff, and our NASA team members. When I was reaching out to them for support on how to restructure our school improvement plan, all of them were very, very supportive. And it's exciting because Algonquin is excellent because of the ongoing support and teamwork that all of us do and foster from each other. So hopefully there's questions. There's a lot.
Anybody have any questions?
So if I could, there's something on, where did I see it? An internship and partnership program and stuff. Can you talk a little bit more about what that is? I mean, did we get kids jobs? Is that what that's about? Or do they offer them jobs, but I mean, are they paid, or is it an internship where they work but don't get paid, or?
So we've started it more through the process of experience. So one of the opportunities we brought on is the BFF through quarter 9, in which students are meeting with female leaders in groups, and they're practicing those interview skills. They're being connected with other female leaders, giving them opportunities to make connections and do on-site internships. So that's just one of them. Mm-hmm. We're not necessarily at the point of placing them with paid internships, but it is definitely maybe a long-term goal that we're looking into.
Thanks.
Yep.
Anyone else?
What's the answer?
Northborough, Southborough Administration.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yes. So all the other principals and central office that we get to work with.
Got it.
Sorry.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next action is a solar update.
So we just wanted to bring back to the surface solar. In 2016, we entered into a contract with Time Bond to do a feasibility study to see if it was feasible to have solar on Algonquian High School roofs and parking lots. They identified 285,000 square feet of parking lot space and 85,000 square feet of roofing space that is right for solar. Part of the contract with Time Bond was a 3-phase process, and the last process was a procurement process to enter in contracts, negotiate actually proposals with companies. Last November, about almost a year ago, we met with Time Bond. They came up with a timeline of entering into procurement and also negotiations with contracts. And after that November meeting, we have not heard from them since. So we think the economic climate change, and we've reached out to them on numerous occasions, but they have not responded. So I think at this point in time, there is an opportunity at Algonquin to generate revenue from the space that we have in parking lots and roofs. I had a conversation recently with a neighboring superintendent who said that they had a small elementary school with far less square footage. One particular solar company gave them money toward a capital project. They actually replaced the roof and gave them canopies, solar canopies in the parking lot, and actually which generated over $20,000 in annual revenue. So there is opportunities to generate some revenue from our solar. I did have a conversation with Mike Gorman, who can help us with a procurement process. He's done that on many occasions with large-scale projects, and he's actually going to kind of lead the work moving forward for Algonquin in terms of looking at procurement and contract negotiation. So more information to follow, but we are moving forward with looking at solar and generating some revenue for Algonquin.
Dan?
So I think it's, it just illustrates the point to be very careful about who might be picked. I mean, we went through this in the town of Southborough. We had people come forward, everything looked great, shiny new thing to do, and people had interest, and they were gone as well. It just really disappeared. So you have to be very mindful about, if and when someone is selected, that they are really a substantial, grounded organization. And then, second point is that I presume that any fees generated would offset and we can then see a decrease or maybe no fees for students for things like sports, being able to park their car here. I've been talking about this for years, and at some point, I'm looking for even $1 decrease. Just start our way of stopping the continual request of parents to pay another $200, another $200, another $200. So it sounds like a great use of $20,000 a year that may come in. So thank you.
I think worth pursuing and investigating, and I agree. I think it's a moving market.
Yeah.
But on the building tour that Mike Gorman gave us, and he talked about the 350,000 square feet we have in this facility, it's not getting any younger, and it does require capital investment. So there are a lot of opportunities to look at. If it does actually generate revenue, what we could do with it.
I'm thrilled that you've got Mike deeply involved in a leadership role on this. I mean, he's been a bulldog chasing ways for us to save money for as long as he's been here. And, I think this is something he could sink his teeth into real well and do a good job for us. I'm glad to see that. That was good news.
So we're still going to get the value that we paid for from Time Bond from the work?
Yes, so all of the feasibility study and the site analysis is still viable. And, what time bond did do for us was a value and still of good use, where they did not want to continue working with us within the procurement and negotiation process. But they did pay, they did deliver on what they had promised in terms of phase one.
Is the committee still together?
The last time the solar committee met was in November of last year.
Okay.
I believe that was almost a year ago.
Okay. Seal of Biliteracy.
So Rhoda Webb will give an update on the Seal of Biliteracy. There was a bill passed, Language Opportunities for Our Kids, was called the Look Bill, that basically provided opportunities for students to make sure students had opportunities to celebrate bilingual and world languages. And Rhoda will speak to some of the work that's been done at Algonquin in preparing for those opportunities. So Rhoda, if you push source, I think you should.
Yes.
So good evening. This is an update for the Seal of Biliteracy. I believe we have mentioned this over the last couple of years. And what is exciting today is to be able to give you just a brief overview, not going really into detail, but where we are with the Seal of Biliteracy for Algonquin Regional High School. So tonight I'm going to address 3 questions. What is the seal? Why implement it? And who awards the Seal of Biliteracy? So the definition for the Seal of Biliteracy is an award given by a school, in this case it would be Algonquin Regional High School, to recognize our students who have studied and attained a high level of language proficiency in a language in addition to English, in listening, speaking, reading, and writing by high school graduation. Why do we want to offer the Seal of Biliteracy? It's actually an insignia that goes on a student when they graduate from our high school to show that they have attained proficiency in a second language. I'll talk about the criteria in just a couple of minutes. But we do want to offer the seal because it will encourage our students to pursue biliteracy. It'll honor the levels that our students achieve here at Algonquin. And it's actually attractive to future employers, to colleges as well, and definitely viewed as an asset in our students' future lives. So if we want to try and answer the question of why is it important to learn a second language, well, there's definitely plenty of research to back the information that knowing more than one language in the 21st century has great benefits for our students, to not only to speak another language, but understand the complex and diverse world and independent world that our students are living in. And there is also plenty of research to be able to show that becoming bilingual has long-term cognitive, cultural, and economic benefits as well for our students. As regards global competence, children who learn 2 languages and who are familiar with one or more cultures and speakers from other languages can understand different points of views, have more empathy towards other people, and realize that communicating effectively with another person also is the ability to be able to communicate in that person's language and also understand the culture that language represents. Definitely studying languages and cultures, as I said before, enhances our students' critical thinking and to be able to think creatively as well. and also to understand a quickly changing world that seems to be becoming smaller and smaller as we are able to communicate so effectively with other countries and other cultures. There has been research for a while now that in the United States, being able to speak more than one language is attractive to employers. This is from human resource managers saying that if they were able to hire an employee who spoke more than one language, they said yes, 42% of the time they would do that. And if they had to decide on who to retain in their company, given that all other conditions would be equal, they would definitely prefer to retain a bilingual speaker. Why do we want to implement the Seal of Biliteracy in our district? We want to promote and validate the learning of other languages in addition to English. It will encourage the enrollment in our world language programs that we have in our schools, starting at middle school and upon graduation at Algonquin. It definitely shapes initial attitudes and informs our students about the value of language diversity. It also strengthens intergroup relationships within our communities. Our communities are becoming much more diverse as we report every year of the amount of languages that are spoken in our communities, and that is starting in preschool. Our increase and growth is starting at the preschool level, with more than about 50% of our families speak a language in addition to English in their homes. And definitely, once again, prepare our students so that they're better prepared as they leave Algonquin and continue their journey, both professionally and personally, in a very global society nowadays. So who awards the Seal of Biliteracy? We've been studying and following this for more than 2 years. So we are very excited to be able to say that we're implementing it this year. We are following the Department of Education because now it is a state seal of biliteracy. So we have guidelines to implement at the school level. But it is definitely an insignia, as I said before, that goes on a student's diploma upon graduation. So this year, our world language students who have achieved a level 4 in Spanish and in French have the opportunity to take a foreign language assessment. The implementation, once again, is spring of this year. And the foreign language assessment that has been chosen is called the STAMP assessment. The Department of Education gives districts an option of which assessments that we can implement. The criteria to earn the seal is the following. A student must complete all graduation requirements. To earn a seal award for the foreign language assessment, a student needs to attain an intermediate high level on the assessment, and also having achieved on MCAS ELA meet expectations when they take their MCAS ELA in grade 10. There's a possibility of attaining a seal award with distinction if a student attains the advanced low level on the foreign language assessment or STAMP and exceeds expectations on MCAS ELA in grade 10. So a little bit about the assessment that we have selected. STAMP stands for Standards-Based Measurement of Proficiency, and last spring, our grade 8 students at Millikan at Trotter took this assessment. It's an adaptive test in listening, speaking, reading, and writing. And that was wonderful because it gave baseline data. That information has been passed on to our world language teachers here at Algonquin. And so we'll be able to measure our students who take it at the end of grade 8 at our middle schools, and then if they take it as a world language here at Algonquin, to be able to measure their growth and attain the levels to be able to graduate with a seal of biliteracy. So this is what we'll be launching this spring. There'll be more information to come, but we're definitely very excited to see that we're able to implement this at our high school.
Could you
Yes.
go back one
next slide, please?
Of course.
So, for high school students, so they would have to, in grade 10, they have to meet expectations. So, what about those students that excel in grade 11, grade 12, weren't quite at meet expectations? They become quite proficient in a second language, but they were not, as a sophomore, at the meet expectations level. There's no option for them?
So, so for the students that didn't meet, so the two criteria, right? The MCAS, ELA, or grade 10. If they didn't pass it the first time, you're saying? If they didn't meet expectations?
Is there an opportunity for them to take it later to meet that expectations?
Yes.
So that they can hopefully attain, for those students
That's
that
right.
want to have this
That's
opportunity
exactly
for the
right.
seal?
Yes.
I think, is the SEAL test given to juniors or seniors?
Yeah, so we wait, so these are two, one is
Okay.
the MCAS
So it's
test
two
that
tests.
everybody has to take, correct? And the other part, for the Seal of Biliteracy, is the foreign language. And we're waiting until a student reaches a level 4 in a foreign language. And that, both criteria is what's going to make, plus meeting our graduation criteria, the ability to be able to qualify to get the seal.
So the student would take the stamp assessment at the end of their junior year.
So these are for juniors? right?
Yes.
Okay.
And what languages do students have the ability to obtain this?
So this year, we're looking at, for students who are in Spanish and in French, but that can definitely be expanded. So launching it for the first year, we're going to try it out with the 2 languages, but there is the ability to be able to offer it in other languages as well. Yes.
So I have 2 questions. One, is that a computer-based? If it's speaking, are they speaking to the computer like with the WIDA or the?
Yes, it's
Okay,
exactly.
okay.
So we have a good role model with an adaptive test for language proficiency, which is the access test.
Yes, access.
And so
Yeah.
it's an adaptive test like the access test in
Okay.
listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Yes.
So it's not, not teacher-based, yeah.
And it's not
criterion-based.
teacher-based, it's all online.
And
Yes.
does this benefit students going to college? I know sometimes they can be exempt if they show proficiency in a language, but a lot of times that's sitting with the dean and like speaking with them. I don't
Right.
know if this will help.
Yes, colleges are starting to, and that is part of what the state is also promoting, as it's become a state seal of biliteracy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they're educating colleges as to what this means and the levels that are attained.
That's good.
Yes. Yes.
How many, have you earmarked or come up with an estimate of how many students you think could achieve this in the 2020 graduation class?
So we don't know how many will achieve it. We have an approximate amount of how many students will be taking this, but this will be our first year, so that will give us excellent data on the results.
So how many do you think will be taking it?
So I spoke to a called a member today, and approximately 240 students will have the opportunity to take this.
And then my second question.
Yes.
How is this being disseminated to the parents so they're aware of it? I mean, even,
So
I
that's
think
those are the
middle
next
school
steps.
kids
Today was just sharing the exciting news, but that is the next step, which is in the planning stages. The parents will be informed, and everything will be rolled out after today. Right, Dr. Walsh is on board, everybody's on board to just now launch it and inform parents of the next steps.
Besides, informing the parents, the 240 students that could be eligible this year.
Yes.
I'm thinking of the other students coming up, because when the students go for their course selection, if parents know that this is an enhancement onto their graduation.
Right.
As a parent, I may want to know even in 8th grade or in freshman year.
Yes.
I think it would be very helpful instead of saying, why, I didn't know about this in junior year, why didn't I push my student a little bit more, or why didn't I become more involved?
Can I just comment that we did launch this at Melican and Trotter in 8th grade, so all of the incoming freshmen have taken this, and parents have been communicated to around this opportunity.
Okay.
So I think as we develop this pathway for students, more and more parents will become aware of it. I think it's an excellent goal.
And was that the test that you mentioned that was given to, that was a preliminary test?
That was to create a baseline and to see where our students were after the years of learning another language at the middle school levels.
I applaud you for this. I think anything to make our students more marketable or to give them the opportunity to excel is really wonderful. To give them the opportunities. Not saying you have to do it, but here's something that can enhance. I think it's great. I support you wholeheartedly.
And there's been a whole study group for the last over 2 years, so it's been definitely a joint effort with our middle schools and high school.
There's no cost to the students to seek this, right? To take the
No cost
tests
to
and
the
anything
student.
like that?
That's correct.
And is there any designation that they receive upon graduation, that they have the seal? Is there something in the graduation program, or there's something that's...
So it's the actual insignia that goes on the diploma can also go on the transcript. So they graduate with that.
So level 4, I assume would start, you're counting 8th grade as a level? Is that what that is or not? How do you count level 4 when you're a junior?
So it depends on what level they took in 8th grade. So you're right in your thought process. Some of our students will come in at maybe Spanish 1 or Spanish 2. So that's why we're not necessarily saying it's for juniors or seniors. And then they progress to the 3 and the 4.
Okay.
And there's no cost to the students. Is there a cost to us? And if so, is it trivial because it's a computer-based test, or, is it expensive to administer, or anything like
It's
that?
aligned with other online tests that we administer, so it's, I think it's roughly around $2,000 to administer
A year. Thanks.
Is that, will they be taking that during school time?
During the school day.
Okay.
So one of the other, and Nicole, the member of the department chair, has done an amazing job, is that they are not giving an additional assessment. This is going to be one of the assessments that students take for the end of, I think, maybe end of course. Sarah, do you know?
Correct. So Nicole's work was to try to not overly test our students. And what we're working on now is what is the exact best timing of year to do the test, because you have juniors, potentially seniors as well, and so where does it fit within the year to do the test? So Greg is correct in that thought process.
Question, has there been any thought to giving the test to level 2 or 3 students, going to get used to it?
So we are in the initial phase of launching this. We have a lot of thoughts around how we can move forward. We had a lot of conversations around when to give the assessment. And the reason why we selected 8th grade and then junior year was because we felt that there was enough time to actually provide students with language instruction. But that was one of the conversations, is maybe having it earlier, sophomore year. We also talked about there are many students who might not participate in world language who are bilingual in our community, and making sure that that is acknowledged as well. So students who might not be in a world language course but speak multiple languages can actually.
I don't know how the test works, but I wonder if you take it after year 2 or 3, if you can see whether you're on the right trajectory.
You can.
John? Just as a suggestion or recommendation, because just mentioning just now that level 1 is at the 8th grade level, I think it would be pertinent and important to make a mini presentation like this at the Northborough School Committee K through 8 and the Southborough. I think because just answering the question that came up right now is important, and to get the parents aware of what we're offering to them and the benefits. Just a suggestion. But a mini one, not a big one. Yeah.
And a great point, Rhoda, on the benefits of the other benefits of someone who can speak more than one language. I know for a fact that employers take it into consideration, both for hiring and absolutely retention. People are sought out that have those abilities, and you go to. I've been fortunate to be able to go to a number of different countries where they speak their language and also English, and so many speak 2 languages, and we don't have as much of that in the U.S. So the more that we can promote that, I think is going to be an absolute benefit to our students. So thank you for what you're doing.
Did I catch that stat right that 50% of the families in the district have a second language spoken at home?
Oh, in our preschool.
In our preschool? Thank you. Okay.
Students are exposed to another, yes.
Got it.
In
Okay.
addition to.
I thought that was remarkable. Yeah.
Unbelievable. Okay, so our next is legislative update.
So some information about the bill that was brought forward, the Opportunity Act. I think it's hard to believe that it's been almost a quarter of a century since 1993 ed reform took place, which initiated the Chapter 70 foundation funding formula that basically funds education. So the Opportunity Act seeks to modernize the funding formula. It actually looks to redistribute some of the funding to communities that are struggling economically and have marginalized populations, so low socioeconomic numbers and percentages. I think that if we look at the communities of Northborough and Southborough, we're not going to see increases in Chapter 70 funding formula. However, there are some components of the legislation that I think will benefit us. One of those is circuit breaker, and special education transportation will become part of circuit breaker reimbursement, which is significant, and I think we've been advocating for that for
7 years.
7 years. I think also some of the assumptions in terms of special education population, I think the assumption was 3.75, and this is now looking at 4%. So we'll see some minor increases in terms of some of the Chapter 70 money we receive. But it's still a bill that's moving forward, has not passed yet, and we're keeping a close eye, obviously, because as we enter the budget process, you know, the more variables, the more difficult our budget season is. So we'll keep you tuned in as we learn more about what happens.
MASC/Mass Joint Conference.
So the MASC, MASS Joint Conference is November 6th through the 9th. And every year they bring forward resolutions. This year there are 9 resolutions that are being brought forward. There are 2 that I'd like to point out. The first is the Resolution 1, banning polystyrene from schools. And it's like to acknowledge Shreya last year put forth a citizen's petition in Northborough to ban polystyrene, which was passed. So she's ahead of the curve, and Northborough's ahead of the curve in terms of banning polystyrene. But this resolution is banning polystyrene in all schools across the Commonwealth. And then resolution number 3, which is school transportation. Basically, it speaks to the fact that across the Commonwealth, districts are finding it very difficult to have competitive bids in terms of transportation. And this looks to level the playing field in terms of removing some of the laws that prevent more competition in transportation. I think this is very important as we look to, we're in our 5-year contract. At the end of our 5-year contract in transportation, we're going out to bid. And an example of how to make it more competitive is that we cannot enter into the transportation business and partner with a local community. For example, Assabet Valley Collaborative cannot create a transportation company, per se, that could compete with private transportation companies. This resolution would allow Assabet Valley Collaborative, for example, to actually enter into the transportation business and provide transportation services to its partner communities. So it's, I think, timely and well needed. So those were the 2 resolutions that caught my attention. And we do need to vote a delegate. There's a member of the committee who is going to be attending the conference. The delegate meeting is being held on November 8th, I believe at 2 or 3 o'clock. And if, I don't have my glasses, so I'm
Great.
so, thank you.
I'm fine.
So if there's anyone who would like to be a delegate. Great.
So not me, but what are we supposed to do with these? What's the delegate supposed to do with these? I mean, I think I remember in the past, we've had some pretty spirited discussions on some very interesting resolutions that MASC has sought to pass, and that we've asked our delegate, while you attend, we ask that you not vote on whatever resolution, or we say, I picked out the two that you picked out as of most interest, 1 and 3, and that, okay, those, but I don't know all the details of these, and there's only one of these, and I think it's the very last one on charter schools that gives the critics of this, and it's, I think, 2 sentences. So what are we supposed to do with this? And what's our delegate supposed to do with it?
Having been a delegate many times.
Yes.
So it is, I won't call it a colossal waste of time to debate these resolutions here amongst us and then send your delegate forward with, okay, this is what we want you to vote for, because especially the controversial ones are always amended 10 times on the floor. So then you find yourself as a delegate, it's like, okay, well, even if I had an indication from my committee of what I should vote for, now they've changed it 10 times. So what you really are doing is you're just sending your delegate and you're trusting them, because because you're right. You get a lot of information on the floor. You get a lot of spirited debate. You get a lot of changes, and so that's seriously just the only thing you can do is just you send them forward. And
do you send them forward on every resolution? Do you say, here's the ones that seem to pertain most to our community?
No, every delegate votes on every resolution.
Interesting.
I mean, is requested, obviously, if a school committee said to somebody, do not vote on number 1, don't vote.
Right.
Then I guess you could, but I mean, it's a democratic process, and so it's like town meeting.
And how many delegates attend this, generally? 500, 1,000, 25?
A ballroom's pretty packed, so I'd say a couple hundred.
And so, for 9 resolutions, is it usually 200 to 0 every time?
No. Because every district does not have the same priorities. So urban districts are going to want very different things than are important to us. So no, certain things are slam dunks, but other things, can pass or fail by a small margin.
And at the end of the day, these are, if I understand correctly, these are suggestions to the legislature who may or may not take them up.
Yeah, so what will end up happening with these is, especially if there is overwhelming support for certain resolutions, is that then that informs the leaders in MASC and MASS to, go forth and lobby their legislators. And then in March, I think MASC has a day on the Hill when school committee members are invited to go to the State House, and actually, it's requested that you make an appointment and sit down with your state legislators, and they'll give, and MASC will give you, talking points, and they'll give you prep work to go and be able to talk about the different resolutions that are important to you.
I think the special education transportation reimbursement is a great example of
it's a great one.
7 years that many communities don't send delegates, many communities don't send school committee members to the conference, but it doesn't preclude them from advocating for positions and legislation that is important to them. So I think in no way not having a delegate puts any school committee at a disadvantage, nor do I think having a delegate vote on behalf of the committee commits the committee to any moving forward with any particular legislation.
So is anyone going to the conference? Either of you want to be a delegate?
Unfortunately, I teach that day, so I can't be there on Friday.
I can be.
Go forth and vote.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Can we quiz you on all of these now? And,
No one will know you voted for either.
Yeah, if you, I'd rather take the, kind of the will of the committee, you know, if we could take some, send me something, or I don't know how to get that
Like
to
I
me,
said, you're
but,
going to get a lot of information when you're there.
Yeah.
And there is no shortage of people who want to go to a mic and talk. So I think we can, I think all agree that transportation is really important to us, and that, you know, you'll hear the debate, you'll hear the pros and the cons, and the people who are for and against it. And I have full confidence in you that you will make the right decision for the district.
okay.
John, so I see we have to take a vote to put John's name in as the delegate? Yes.
Second.
There it is.
so for discussion, will you be voting on every one of these resolutions? Do you know yet? Are we asking that he vote on our behalf, representing us on every one of these,
Yes.
or one of these?
Everyone.
Everyone. You ready for a quiz?
I will study all of these deeply between now and November.
And then he comes back after the conference and he reports about
Sure.
the, you know, especially the spirited discussions are the most fun to report on.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, and you don't have to report how you voted.
Oh,
Just-
no, that's fine. Yeah.
That's the most fun.
So we can heckle them.
Yes.
What were you thinking, O'Shea?
I'd like to know if there are any climate deniers at a school committee conference. Extremely disheartening.
Aw, you want to have that discussion now? Oh, gosh. Let's talk about, which one's climate? Let's talk about that one. Great.
About women's menstrual rights.
That one's also on, that's one also is on here.
Move the question.
I'm actually on a grant committee for the Foundation for Metro West, and I just went to a site visit at Dignity Matters. And it's a woman who started this project. She actually has gone to the House, she's trying to start legislation to make sure that every high school, public restroom, everywhere has this for women, menstrual products. It's an amazing, she has a really small, they're all, I think there's only 2 paid people that work for her, and everyone else is volunteers. And it's an amazing organization. So I was actually happy to see that this was in our packet.
And we will be thrilled to hear the discussion on it.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Would it be inappropriate if I made like a Google form, just said question 1 with the thing and send it to people, and people would just put yes, no, and then?
Sure. But
Okay.
I'm reiterating, what you end up voting on is not always going to look very similar at all to
Right.
what is
Okay.
here.
But the topic.
Conceptually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good idea.
Okay.
so Joan,
Is there an open meeting law issue with that?
What do you mean? What do you mean?
Taking a
Oh.
poll.
If there's no deliberation, I don't
Data
think so.
collection only. So as long as you're not seeing other people.
I won't make comment boxes or give names. Okay. Data collection only.
It goes to the chair.
yeah, you just send it to me.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so all those in favor?
Thank you.
And we thank you for your service.
Look at her smile.
We'll get off that hook.
Okay, so our next is the superintendent's report to the committee.
So we have Dr. Walsh in our principal's report.
Excellent, thank you. So as stated last month, I'm including students' artwork, so I wanted to thank Amelia, who's a junior, and Remy, who's a freshman, for this month's student work in our newsletter. I always like to point out whenever there's cross-curricular work or co-curricular work, so thank you to Ms. Rufo's AP Microeconomics class and Mr. Clark's Video Production 2 class. They've continued their Money Talk show. They're in season 3, and they just videoed their first episode with financial planner Mr. Key, who came in to work with the students, which was great. And thank you to Northborough Cable Access for letting us use their facilities. Below that is just shameless advertisement about Mamma Mia, because I have to put the plug in there. Opening day is November 21st. Some really great cast photos that Ms. Collins shared with me. Tomorrow, we welcome the class of 2024 parents for our 8th grade parent night. And I wanted to thank our upperclassmen for hosting the Trottier tours. We hosted the Trottier 8th grade students here, in which our juniors and seniors led them around the building, and we host Milliken tomorrow. It's really great when our students have the opportunity to have that leadership role and make that mentorship connection with incoming freshmen. Thank you to our pep band. They marched in both Apple Fest and Heritage Day Parade this past weekend. And to our athletic council marched in the Heritage Day Parade. And in addition, we had I think it was our German exchange student and French exchange student also in the parade, and some of them brought their instruments and played with the pep band. So it was a great experience. They jumped right in there. Thank you to our junior class for extremely successful homecoming dance. It was our first semi-formal dance ever. They completely transformed the cafeteria. It was a fun event. And I just wanted to give the senior steering committee a shout out. They did some very thoughtful work around creating a fun, safe, and inclusive, memorable senior week. So we are bringing back senior week, in which that kind of last week of school, they do all the senior events in a row. The timings are shifted a little bit to help students who may have after school activities or commitments, and they really just thought about how to make it a fun, inclusive event. So very proud of the senior class. Under activities, always want to promote when we have tutoring. Our Science National Honor Society is doing tutoring. There's a lot of great services that our students do in the school, peer tutoring. We have Algonquian Writing Center tutoring. Student Council is already deep into a successful food drive where they do the most needed products, so you may have some of your students coming home saying what they need to bring to school. Our varsity math team continues crushing their crushing successes. They've gotten their first place finish. Thank you to Mr. Callanan and their work. Really fun to see them perform and then come back. They always include a fun picture of them on the website. For athletics, I included our Athletic Hall of Fame inductees for 2019. I just wanted to point out that we really won't let Fran Whitten retire. He's back on it. So we'll be welcoming Fran back in November when we host that. It's the day after Thanksgiving. September T-Hawk months have been nominated and voted for. They're included in our school committee report. And then Athletic Council, Mike spoke a little bit about this, are really doing some of their subcommittee work in a collaborative manner and pushing it forward. They're focused on community service, Hall of Fame, policies, procedures, leadership, school spirit, and game management. For leadership in particular, and working with Mike, this morning we did our captain's breakfast, and we did more of a role-playing opportunity where some of our team captains were faced with some of those difficult conversations that may happen in the locker room or on teams, and how do you navigate those? You know, how do you develop your leadership skills? And how do you include the JV and freshman teams in those conversations as well? So the role-playing initially had some mixed feedback, but by the end, the students were able to share their best practices, which was great to see them work together. Congratulations to our volleyball, field hockey, boys and girls soccer for clinching playoff spots. So that's really fun, exciting news. And I just wanted to point out that A.D. Mascherino has updated his closing statement to now say, like, day or night he hopes to see you at the games. We're still both pushing for the hard frost. We wish that this nor'easter that they called a nor'easter included a hard frost, but it was just rain. For social studies, Ms. Burns reported out that we had quite a few families willing to come and host this year for our China exchange students, so that was really exciting. That work is already being done. I think that meeting was I think it was last night, actually. Guidance and the APTO hosted a very successful annual college fair. They had 104 different colleges attend, and we did it a little different this year. For the first time ever, we opened the fair early just for Algonquin students, and then invited other local high schools so that we could attract more colleges to come and more resources for our students to experience. So that was really exciting. But of course, you know, selfishly, we stole the initial time for our students, which was great. Great work, great collaboration with Ms. Connery, Guidance, and APTO. For Applied Arts and Technology, I wanted to point out some of the wood tech work and engineering graphics class work. They were working on some cutting boards and had done some chess boards. And the number one most frequent comment when people see the cutting boards is like, how do I buy that? So the woodworking quality is just so stellar. So I included a picture. It doesn't do it justice, so hopefully you can come see some of that work. Congratulations to Ms. Shepard's 2018-19 students for doing their working family project. Those pictures are posted in our rotunda area. They're from the previous project for Students 1. We're going to update those pictures, so next time you visit the school, hopefully you'll see them. Shameless advertising, we have our upcoming fall choral concert in next week, and then the following week I have our instrumental concert. And we have some student written pieces being showcased, so hopefully you can attend those events. In science class, I love when we can talk about, it's part of our SIP plan as well, when we're able to increase or improve or continue some of our collaboration with local resources. So school resource officer, new to us this year, Detective Fruworth, totally jumped in to support some of our forensic work, and he led the students through one of the forensic opportunities that he would do as detective work. So students got real life experience. And it's great that they just get to connect with him as well. It's a great community resource for them to have. Under student support, I talked a lot about, and thank you to Ms. Rutigliano and her team for sharing this work, some of the collaborative real life experiences and programmatic developments that we've done so our students can have on-site vocational work here in the school and both off-site. So I just included those. And thank you to Ms. Karen Brown. She's always pushing the work to expand those opportunities for students. In the library, I thought it was such a kind thing for Ms. Honey and the library team to do. They promoted 100 cards for our 100th birthday for one of our veterans. And I'm going to actually mail him now our principal report so that he can see that it was also reported on. I don't know if he's a YouTuber, but I'll include the Northborough Cable YouTube link. It was just a kind way to support all the great work that our senior citizens and our veterans do for us. That was great. Under administration, I just wanted to, it's not in the principal report, but I had a great meeting with A.D. Massarino in which we did discuss impact testing to prepare for some questions tonight. Last year, in total, we had 5 impact tests done for the entire year. This year, we're already up to 6 tests. So we've made some pretty measurable gains. The work continues in progress. I know we're going to be doing some updates next month, but it was great to be able to report out that data. And that's it.
Thank you very much for your report, and I just have one suggestion that goes back to the musical that's going to be performing Mamma Mia. And for those who took the tour of Algonquin, they were practicing, and they even asked us if we could stay, but we didn't have time to stay for it. I attended a Friends of the Northborough Senior Citizens, and seeing how they can be involved with the schools. And I know that in the past, we would offer tickets to them at a discounted rate or free, or even come to a dress rehearsal, because they can bring, and we're concerned about parking. I know from the Friends of the Northborough, probably it's the same with Southborough, they can bring one of their vans over if they arrange it far in advance. And I know when I asked them, well, how many tickets would you want? Well, we'll even just take 5. We'll take you to 10. They weren't even asking for a lot. So I don't know if that somehow we can reach out to the senior citizens of Northborough and Southborough. I think it's a good collaboration, and I think, even coming to a dress rehearsal, they would be tickled pink to come. And I have a contact with the Friends of Northborough if you would like it. Yes. So, but I'm sure you can do it yourself, but if you need the name, I can give it to you. And the other last thing I said, last thing is, through the tour, you mentioned about the Writing Center twice tonight. I was so pleased on that tour to see the Writing Center and the initiative and just the setup of it. It's just absolutely wonderful, and the cooperation between faculty, volunteers, and the students doing it. It's a wonderful environment. So kudos for having that in Algonquin. It was beautiful. Thank you very much.
That was a great tour.
It was a great tour.
Not including the recent conferences, just feedback that was really, everybody's well prepared, great night. And the Hidden in Plain Sight in the Rotunda was, a great present, or just tables of presentations for parents to be aware of vaping can just be, materials can just be there and you'd not even notice. That was nice to see.
And just to follow up, I didn't, at the very end, I wasn't listening fast enough still. You were saying there were 5 impact tests for the concussions. Does that mean there were 5 concussions last year and 6 this year, or 5 signed up for that testing that was introduced last month?
So impact testing is the test that's given before a concussion.
Okay.
So it's the baseline data. So last year, we had 5 total tests given for baseline data for the entire year over the 3 seasons.
So only 5 athletes chose to have this baseline testing done, and 6 this year. Okay.
6 already. So what's exciting is that it's October, and we've already surpassed our data last year. But I think it was Ms. Key who brought up students can now maybe take it with their physician, and there's other opportunities and how long it lasts, so there's different variables involved.
And I think that, how long does it, if somebody took it this year, is it 2 or 3 years? Is it 2 years?
I thought it was 2.
2, yeah. So is it, at some point, can we have that, like, you know what I mean, that piece of it, just to know, like, how many kids actually took it 2 years ago versus, you know? Paul?
So, thanks for this. And I'm thrilled to find that you were talking with the athletic director about those tests. That's good. I appreciate that follow-up. I'm thrilled with the idea of that college fair where you opened it up to the other towns and stuff. 104 colleges showed up for this year around. How big a leap was that over, say, years past? That seems like a lot of I don't recall that many colleges here when my kids were graduating.
I don't remember the exact numbers from last year. I can get that for you. But I knew the goal was to expand the resources.
Geez, I think it's terrific.
Just wanted to speak to Lisa Connor's leadership and working with APTO to make it happen, and the thought process that went behind it, to kind of make it almost like a community.
What a great idea.
Yep.
Yeah.
Another great update, and special thanks to Ms. Honey for the effort that she led on behalf of the World War II veteran. I think that was incredibly kind of her to do that, and I'm sure that he was thrilled to receive those. When I deployed to Iraq, there were kids from the Finn Elementary School who sent me tons of cards, and you can't imagine what an impact that makes on the recipient of those. So I'm sure he was thrilled. Great job by Ms. Honey, and great job by the students at Algonquin.
Thank you.
So next is, in your packet is the enrollment.
Can I ask you a question on that? So is this top section, the 63.15 and the 3685, is that the October 1 date that's used for the assessment? Okay.
So we do have our October 1 enrollment. This is as of 9/18. So, but it hasn't shifted that much from.
I wouldn't think it would. But okay.
Yeah, we have not seen percentages like these in the past.
Been a while.
15 years.
Yeah.
We are, compared to NASDAQ, we are one student off NASDAQ projections, so 1399 was NASDAQ.
Oh, that's scary.
So.
NASDAQ's never right. Do we have any assumptions as to why this big swing?
In terms of
is massive development in Northborough?
When we look at NASDAQ projections, this was projected that we'd have declining enrollment faster than in Southborough, faster than declining enrollment in Northborough. But both communities are seeing a decrease in school-age children in terms of enrollment. So.
Is there any competition or consideration of private school choices?
So I think what we've seen when there's been a downturn in the economy, more families choose to send their kids to public schools. So I think we have seen a slight increase in families selecting private schools over Algonquin.
Do we know how many students we lose between the two towns?
So I don't have the exact percentage, but in the past it's been about 90% of students from Southborough enroll in Algonquin, and it's been about 97 to 98% of Northborough students enroll in Algonquin.
So this sheet must be close that they gave us. The bottom section talks about the projected enrollment based on 100% of grade 8 enrollment, and they thought 346 kids were coming out of 8th grade, but now in the actual only shows 324 here. So I think that's
the difference.
Close, yeah.
Yep.
A lot of houses in Southborough right now turning to.
Well, that was going to be my next question. I don't know historically. Do you enroll many students during the year, or is it stay pretty stable?
So we do take enrollments throughout the year. We have a very low churn rate, so they don't go back and forth. I wouldn't say double digits. It depends on the year. And then these numbers also include if there's a drop, as Paul pointed out, the 324 versus the 346. Let's not forget that we also have the Assabet, the Vogue School as well. So it's not
Right.
primarily just charter or private. We are also competing against vocational schools.
Yep.
So,
Yep, right, good point.
I'm talking about turning more like kids whose, parents whose kids are out of college with new families coming, like younger families coming in Southborough, I think anyways.
I think what we're seeing at the pre-K through 8s is that, for example, in Northborough this year, we were projecting 159 kindergarten students enrolling, and we had 177 K students enrolling.
Yeah.
So we're seeing,
Yeah.
and it was way off from what NESDEC projected.
Yeah.
So we're seeing,
Just,
I think, some of that
yeah.
turnover of housing and younger families moving in both communities.
I've noticed a lot of houses selling.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure. Yeah.
So next in your packet is the FY20 monthly general fund expenditure report, and I'll have Becky speak to that.
So as you can see, we have right now on our bottom line a balance of $1,093,751.48. So we are trending the same as we were last year. We are continuing to watch certain line items and work very closely, especially with our student support services, to try to anticipate as much as we can for the upcoming year. We are also trying to encumber as much as we can and try to get the knowns taken care of so that the budget is very accurate for us.
Motion to vote until approved. Paul?
So I move that we accept the FY20 statement of revenue and the FY21, the expenditure report, I'm sorry, until audited.
Double second.
All those in favor? Okay.
So next in your packet is the statement of revenue as of September 30th, 2019. I'll have Becky speak to that as well.
So just quickly, one thing that I did want to point out and follow up to last month's meeting is the insurance revolving on the OPEB.
Can you speak up? I'm sorry.
Sure, sorry. I'm a quiet talker, I guess.
I'm old.
On the insurance revolving, the OPEB revolving account. This is just for this fiscal year, but I wanted to give you the balance on the account. Right now, it is $138,084.93. So that is the amount that we will be looking to form the OPEB trust with. So these numbers are just reflective of what was actually received by the regional district for this fiscal year.
And the rest of that is mostly the stock sale? Yeah.
So we do have a meeting next Wednesday with PARS, which is the Public Agency Retirement Services, and that is with Christine Tague and a PARS representative set up at that trust. So more information will follow in the weeks to come.
And what's the plan to continually fund that fund per year? What amount? Or is projected?
It's a great question. You know, it's a little bit of a function of what our E&D is at the end of each year, and you know, we've got kind of a policy that says we're going to try and hold on to this much, you know, E&D to kind of prime the pump for the next year's budget. If there's some excess, but it's under the legislative 5% max, we're targeting OPEB. But, you know, every year will be its own kind of decision, but that's, I think that's what the Operational Budget Subcommittee is thinking as a rule of thumb right now.
I don't know what Northborough's done, at least in Southborough, I think we're doing $250,000 a year as automatic goes into that.
Right.
And, you know, even that is way low.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we could make it the will of the committee at some point in time during budget prep to actually put a line in the budget and make it part of the assessment to say, no matter what, we're going to pick a number, 50 grand, 100 grand, or whatever. And
Strongly recommend that.
Okay.
we'll get out of fees.
Yeah. Yes, add more fees.
So we need to vote. Do you have a motion?
So moved, until audited.
Second.
All those in favor? Okay.
Timely. Next is the FY 2021 budget priorities. So as a Algonquin leadership team, we did meet and did some brainstorming around, you know, what are the priorities of the leadership team and of Algonquin moving forward. And many of the priorities that are listed here are the priorities that came to the surface at that meeting. We talked a lot about making sure that our students have outstanding instructional materials that are updated. We talked about making sure the capital plan is funded. We also talked about the phone system. Social emotional learning came as a topic that was a priority, and obviously maintaining the high quality staff and the class ratios was something that we talked a lot about at that meeting. So this is an open conversation around what do we want our 2021 budget priorities to be.
To the previous discussion, I mean, we could add a bullet on OPEB if it was the will of the committee. I mean, and even adding the bullet doesn't necessarily mean it's going to show up in the budget. You know, I mean, we don't necessarily hit all those class size targets either, but.
I think it's a priority. I don't know that it belongs as a bullet item, but I think it's something that definitely we should.
Yeah, I think, I would tend to agree with you. Working the budget over the years, it's never going to be a significant line item for the budget that goes into the town's assessment. So it's always, but it's something we need to be, we at the committee need to be mindful of. Again, you know, I could go either way, frankly.
I know we never did this before, but after the presentation of the school improvement plan and what you were just saying about social and emotional is we do say fund the initiatives of school improvement plan, but just something to throw out, would we want to put another bullet underneath it, indent, and put some of the things that would be under the school improvement plan that would cover what Greg was saying that you talked with the principal with on social, emotional, and some of those things. I mean, we would have to take a look at it and say, okay, which one of these are the money items? You know, if it's a technology, promoting healthy boundaries, that type of thing. Safety.
Doesn't the bullet itself already cover that then? I mean,
I
without
guess
doing
I'm
the
just looking for
sub-bullet?
something a little more detailed, because some of these are not money issues.
Don't need it, but
Don't need it.
those that require it, a priority of ours is to fund those initiatives in the SIP.
Well, I guess I was just connecting what Greg was saying. They talked about social, emotional. Instead of making that another bullet, just make it a subset. So we don't have to.
So my recommendation is that the broader priorities, it does not mean that we can't focus on specific things in, for example, like social emotional learning and improvement plan. So I think that bullet actually is a great bullet for us in terms of the leadership team to move forward with, because it leaves a lot of pathways for us to move with.
I think these things kind of inform more discrete decisions each year, and some of these are, you know, everything's a moving target a little bit, so.
Okay, that's fine.
You know, the capital plan, as an example, John, could have, you know, all sorts of purchases this year that won't be valid next year because we'll have bought them.
Okay.
And so, you know.
Okay, that's fine.
So are we okay with the ones that we have? Again, I mean, I feel like you have instructional materials, which we have.
Yeah, so I feel like the conversation we had as a leadership team was aligned with the budget priorities that were listed here. My only suggestion is I think the second to the last bullet, meet the goals set forth for educational technology in the district technology plan. I think that might need to be revisited in terms of that was a 3-year plan and we're now in year 5. So I think there probably should be a bullet around technology, but maybe not necessarily the plan is as pertinent as it once was.
Because when this was first thought up, I mean, that was when we was talking about bring your own device, what's it going to be like? Can we get, you know, a computer in every kid's hand or not? And we've kind of accomplished an awful lot of, I mean, basically all of those goals, right, this year with the funding?
I look at technology in the work that we need to do really fits under the first bullet. In terms of we have
just
what we
instructional
need.
resources now.
We now need to make sure we're using what we have.
Do we delete the second to last bullet then if it's covered in the first?
I think technology deserves to be mentioned somehow. I mean, if you change that first bullet, maybe just add instructional resources, including technology.
I like that. Me too.
Anything, or are we fine by taking?
No, I think we were, I think, very comfortable with.
Comfortable with that? Okay.
Cool.
Will the committee devote these?
Are we good tonight to vote this?
This month difference is god awful.
Anything? We okay to vote?
So moved.
Second.
Dan and Paul, okay. All those in favor? You.
So in your calendar is the FY21 budget calendar, and the only new event that took place was the Algonquin Regional High School building tour. And I'd just like to thank Mike Gorman for leading us on that tour. He has a lot to be proud of in terms of the work that he does and his team does. And the next meetings are the Capital Planning Subcommittee meeting, which is on October 30th.
So we still have the same time pressure on the Southborough town meeting. That's a month ahead of Northborough's and stuff. That's worth pointing out.
Policy development and distribution.
So distribution of visitation and observation policy, K150 for your binders. And then also 2 years ago, I believe, we updated our policy E110, which was use of and rental of facilities, and we decoupled the procedures piece from that policy, and we've been working on coming up with updated procedures for use and rental of school facilities. Michelle Contadonato has done some work last year looking at surrounding communities, really primarily looking at fee structures. We found that we were a great value for the type of facilities we were offering, and that people were taking advantage of that great fee, or not a great fee, I should say.
Great for them.
Great for them. So what we did was we really increased our fees for private organizations who are renting our facilities, so that we're actually gaining some value in terms of the rental space. So last year, just in terms of a general baseline, we received $41,000 in revenue for rental, and the expense in terms of custodial expense was about $10,000. So we made about $30,000. The fee structure that we're recommending is going to increase the revenues about 60%. So we'd actually earn another $24,000, and they're still aligned with surrounding community high schools and the fees that they're charging outside organizations. We still have some work in terms of working with the high school leadership team around internal procedures around how we use staff to fund some of these events. But overall, we feel like it's a good guideline to move forward with.
How often are we renting to for-profit organizations?
I don't have the data off the top of my mind, but we can get that for you. And primarily, I think outside organizations are renting our gymnasiums and auditorium, Sarah.
And cafeteria.
Is there anything in these rental agreements about, like, the auditorium, outside groups having to use, like, an approved, doing the projectors, sound system can be
Yes.
complicated, and you don't want just anybody to...
To speak to that.
Good. Okay.
Audience sharing? Anyone? Personnel?
So updated personnel report in your packet.
Communications. So this is the committees, subcommittees, liaisons. take one more look at it, make sure it's good. And just email me and let me know if there's any changes to that. Okay. Approval of bills and payroll. We have.
They've been signed.
We don't have any.
And then agenda items for next month.
Brian Kalman will be doing a UIOD one-to-one presentation.
And then do we want to have would you want to have another update from?
I think we should, my recommendation would be to have Mike Marcelino come. I think we're transitioning from fall to winter sports, and I think it's a great opportunity to see what we can do in terms of making it as easy as possible to take the PAC testing. Not that we're mandating it, but we're actually making it easy for the opportunity. And I think that's a conversation we should continue from when we had it last month.
Okay. Does anyone else have anything else to put on here?
I'm just thinking, in terms of the improvement plan, maybe not for next meeting, but wherever it fits, where a meeting may not be too long. I'd love to hear more about the SEL initiatives and any data around, impact of what has been going on and how students are responding to that.
We also have the delegate report.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
Right.
Okay. So if that is it, do I have a motion to go into executive session? Paul?
I would move that we adjourn this meeting of the Algonquin Regional School Committee.
To go
Nope.
into
To go
executive
into executive session.
Oh, I'm sorry. We're out of here. I thought that was next month's agenda. So I move that we adjourn to discuss and move into executive session to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining due to the chair's determination that the discussion regarding this matter in an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the position of the committee with no intent to return to open meeting.